All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're joining us, welcome. My name is James Collins. I'm one of the student recruitment coordinators here at the Business School, and it's great to have you join us for our Master of Project Leadership talk. Now, just before we get started, just some housekeeping to go through. This session is currently being recorded, so for any students who miss out, we'll be able to send this to them later on. We're also wanting to make this session as interactive as possible. So Siobhan is going to be doing the majority of today's presentation, but I'll be looking after the chat box. So if you do have any specific questions you would like answered, pop that in the chat and I will be able to answer those, or we can go back to Siobhan and ask those questions at the end of today's presentation. Now, for anybody who's joining us who's also interested in a couple of different study areas as well, we do have a Master of Banking and Finance presentation taking place tomorrow at 4 p.m. We also have our Master of Global Business presentation taking place on the 21st of October at 5 p.m. And finally, to wrap up a week's worth of events, we have our Master of Economics and Econometrics on the 22nd of October at 3 p.m. So jot those down. I'll also put that in the chat for you now, so you've got those dates handy. And just one final thing before we get started today. If for whatever reason you're wanting some individual course advice, maybe to do with your work experience, your grades, or finding what type of program is right for you, we also have the option to provide our students with a one-on-one consult. So I will be putting the link into the one-on-one consult in our chat. Please feel free to make a booking. You'll either speak to myself either this week or next week, or one of my colleagues, Catherine or Natalie. We will be able to help guide and advise you about what options are available. Now, today's session is going to be short and sweet. Siobhan's going to be talking, I think, for about 15, 20 minutes. We're then going to open it up for questions, and we want everything finished by 5:30. So without further ado, Siobhan, if I could just introduce you as our course director for Master of Project Leadership, and I'll hand it over from here.
Thank you. Thanks, James. Really appreciate the introduction. And there's a few programs running through these types of forums. So welcome to people who have turned up. And for those that are listening to the recording, hopefully this will provide you with some more information that you may not have seen on the websites. So I'm going to acknowledge the Kulin Nations on whose land we are gathered here today and pay my respects to their elders past and present. So I'll go into the slides now. There's a slide up here that's got the title of the program, there's a course code and a Cricos code. And what we probably need to do is just focus on the fact that it is a multidisciplinary degree. It sits in the business school within Monash University, and it does span any discipline that you might want to apply the knowledge that you'll learn through the program into the various components that you're going to be working on. So, why study project leadership? Now, if we look at some of the history of the projects around the world and even in our own backyard, particularly at the moment with COVID-19, we're dealing with a changing environment. And that environment requires people to be adaptable, to be able to apply a skill set that is able to deliver outcomes that are predictable and meet certain objectives. So when we're looking at leadership, and particularly based on some of the feedback that we get on a regular basis from our Industry Advisory Council, the need for people in industry to be able to deliver these outcomes, lead project teams, and to be able to think strategically is incredibly important. Some of my background, I've spent 20 odd years in the corporate sector, managing projects in health, in education, and also in corporate finance. And then I moved into the academic sector, and we still manage projects. So with these skills, you'll be able to deliver certain outcomes. You'll be able to achieve incredible career outcomes. If I get some questions about where to with a degree like this, we can cover that off. If we look at the business school, the third bullet point in particular, we're going to cover off a little bit about what the structure of the program is, and then there's some time at the end for questions. So the next slide, a little bit about me. There's an email address, more than happy to answer emails. I've got a range of different types of qualifications. I started life as a graphic designer, moved into working on major insurance and corporate finance projects, mergers and acquisitions. I worked with Lend-Lease for about a decade. I worked with AMP in Asia and managed projects in India, China, Singapore, and Japan. Worked with a big Chinese health company, delivering integrated medical outcomes in Australia, and then moved into the academic world, where I've been a program director for Masters in Project Management and Masters in Project Leadership. So I've got those qualifications, both from a practice perspective and from an industry perspective, and with the various research activities that I conduct as well. And you can see on the slide there that we've got a web page or a landing page where you can go in and download a flyer. The other team members that teach with me, that work on the program, have all got similar backgrounds. They've worked in industry for a minimum of 10 years delivering projects. They have formal qualifications in project management, including master's degrees in project management and PhDs in either project management or related disciplines. So you're in good hands with the teams. The next slide, if I go down, is talking about why study leadership, particularly in a project context. And the first bullet point there is employability. If you do any type of seek.com or Google search on average salaries of project managers, and again, it depends on the industry. You can range from anything just over 100,000 and upwards for an entry level into this discipline. We start to look at the way that it can be applied across different disciplines, different industry sectors. The students that come into our cohorts come from engineering, from the traditional areas in project management, IT, business. We have lawyers, we have interior designers, we have event managers. We had a person who ran expeditions to Antarctica and their projects. So we have a whole range of different disciplines that join our faculty and join the discipline area, which is called project management. The new skills that you'll develop start with the foundation of project management. So we have 4 units where you learn the techniques and the tools to be able to deliver projects. And then we have 4 units, which are subjects, we call them units at Monash, and what we call the core or advanced units of study. And you'll supplement those with electives, and the electives can go across a whole range of different sectors within the university. So I'll touch on those maybe in a little bit. With the industry connections that we've got, all of the project management and project leadership units of study are involved on campus with our Industry Advisory Council. So we bring in real projects to work on in project teams, which you'll either self-select or will assign you into those project teams, and you will be presenting back the outcomes to the clients. And it'll culminate in a capstone project, which is a 12 credit point subject or unit of study, and you will be working on a real project. One of the recent student groups worked on a project for Metro Trains, and it was reviewing their annual maintenance schedule. And the student team did such an exceptional job that the Industry Advisory Council member invited that group to present to the Chief Operating Officer. And during that meeting, the COO invited their executive team to come into the presentation, and they were so impressed with the work that the student group were doing. They've decided to extend their work and engage them to do other projects. So a really good story there. So that's the industry connections, where we do have a lot of interaction with our Industry Advisory Council. And they're a group of senior decision makers, both in Melbourne, in Victoria, and in other states and territories. So we have people that head up various program offices for Woodside, for KPMG, so consulting groups, for banking and finance. We have people from NAB, from not-for-profit, so the Salvation Army, local councils, state governments, the Office of Projects Victoria, previous national presidents for the industry associations. So it's a fairly dynamic group of people, and we have very robust discussions around what type of projects the students will be working on, and also what type of graduates are going to be employed by them, and to ensure that we meet their needs. So I talked a little bit about the salary. You might be currently in a position, you might be looking at a promotion, you might be looking at taking on a different type of career. So we do have people that come in at different times in their life cycle of their career to be able to join in and look at how they're managing projects. So here I'm looking at why study a degree like this in the business school. So as I said at the beginning, the degree is situated and managed within the business school, and it is multi-faculty. So one of our academics sits in the Faculty of Engineering, and one of our academics was sitting in the Faculty of IT, and we have an academic that sits in business. And we, as I said, we run the electives across all different faculties. And we have curated themes within the business school. We have entrepreneurship and other types of units of study. And we also have a range of units that you can take in sustainability, in law, back in engineering, in IT. You can stream them so that you take all the electives in one particular discipline area or faculty, or you can mix and match and you can take electives that suit your particular area of interest. One student at the moment is taking a number of electives in the arts faculty because he's doing a museum curation project. So that's his area of interest and career. So that's how putting together that almost bespoke type of study program is possible. Some requirements, though, that they have to be at a certain level, and we have to look at any prerequisites or co-requisites or anti-requisites so that you can actually take those electives. But we work with you. This is an adult learning environment, and we're peers. We actually work side by side, and we learn as much from our student cohorts often as what we learn, what you learn from us. So there are a number of points here that I'll step through where we do have entry points both in semester 1 and semester 2. So we have 2 intakes a year. We also offer the graduate certificate in project leadership. So that can go through with 4 units of study full-time, and you can complete that in 6 months. There's an opportunity to do a graduate diploma in project leadership, and that can be completed in 12 months. And this is full-time, all on campus. Or you can continue and do the master's degree, depending on your undergraduate degree or any other aligned or other type of postgraduate degree. No diplomas or industry certifications, they're not at the government required levels for a credit or recognition of prior learning. So they're the entry paths and the exit paths. It is flexible. I've talked about the electives. You can do full-time, part-time. You can start part-time and then go full-time. You can start full-time, go part-time. It all depends also on your visas, and there's some conditions around how many hours of study you can do. So we need to look at that as well and make sure that you're meeting those requirements. We have students who are either just graduating or have graduated who have offered to be mentors. We've launched just in the last month our online Facebook page. We had a trivia night last Friday night, which was incredibly interesting and fun. 3 different themes and categories. And I have to say, I enjoyed it immensely because I won the project management theme or stream, and I got a certificate saying that I was an aspiring project manager. And I thought, that's fabulous. I was very chuffed with that. That's on the Facebook page. So we have fun as well as the serious side about building your credentials to be able to get recognised in industry. The experiences that I've talked about with the collaboration with our industry partners, where the projects are brought into the classroom and they brief you. So we get those organisations coming in virtually at the moment, but ideally, hopefully in semester 1, we'll be able to do it on campus. And it is linked to those outcomes that are serious and taken across into industry. Some of the projects that we've been working on recently, as I mentioned, the Metro Trains, that's in the Capstone project. We were working with a couple of startup organisations, and we were working with one of the local councils. Some of the students have been working on an online project hub where we're creating a portal for industry to populate it with projects. Next semester, we've got some really interesting projects with a facilities management group situated in Canberra. It's a group that does a lot of work with the Red Cross and the government, the federal government. We do some work with a foundation, an Indigenous group up in Northeast Arnhem Land. We don't travel there, but we are actually, the outcomes are delivered back into the organisation, and they've been able to secure funding from the government based on the reports that the students have been doing. So we do have some really interesting projects that you would be working on. So the real clients and the international collaboration comes through both from the experience of the academics and also the projects that you'll be working on. Some of the work that I've done in my career has been with NASA as well. I was invited to go and teach some of their engineer project managers how to manage their knowledge on projects, which was or is currently my research area and what I'm looking at based on my PhD and what I saw fail in industry. So we're bringing in those types of networks and collaborational, that's not a real word, but collaboration opportunities to be able to work with those people. We are a group of 8 universities, so we are ranked 64th in the world, and those rankings identify that Monash is a place to be. So the next slide is just if you've got any questions. I think I'm sort of on time. I've got about 7 minutes until we stop. I will ask James if there are any questions in the chat. And again, that email address, I'll go back. So if you want to, I'll leave that slide up there with my email address to contact me if you've got any questions that you don't want to necessarily ask in an open forum.
Yeah, thanks for it, Siobhan. That's been really, really useful. Just a couple of questions we had prior to this session starting. A few students actually contacted us prior to this. Can you give us an idea about timetabling? I'm conscious that a lot of the domestic students are likely to be working full time. So what kind of timetabling is available?
Really good question. I missed that in my little sort of a concentrated focused area on talking about the overall program. So on the day-to-day delivery of the program, it's been designed to ensure, and this is the way that I structured the program when I was brought in to set this up, to simulate real project management. You don't learn projects 2 or 3 hours a week for a 12 or 13 week period or deliver projects. So we're not teaching it in that way. We teach it in what we call a split block mode. So you come onto campus for 5 full days, not sequential days, they're actually split up. So you would normally come in on, say, a Monday or a Tuesday of 1 week, and that would be a seminar that runs from 9 till 6. Then about 10 days later, so the following week, you would come in on a Friday and a Saturday. Friday 9 till 6, Saturday 10 till 4, and then 2 weeks later, and this is a typical timetable. We've had to truncate it this semester because of the late start, so we've done this week apart. But typically there's a gap of about 10 days to 2 weeks. So 2 Fridays, 2 Saturdays, and 1 Monday or Tuesday. So essentially you're really only taking 3 days out of your full-time job if you're working full-time. And if you're working part-time, we can sort of talk about how you structure the timetable around being able to attend the workshops. We do require you to attend the full day because a lot of the learnings are interspersed between activities. And the way we structure it is usually we will run about an hour of it's not necessarily a lecture, but it's a discussion around a topic. And all of the material is up on our learning system, our online learning system called Moodle at the beginning of semester. So you'll be able to download all of the readings, all of the slides that we might use, and other material, the assignment briefs, background to the clients that we might be doing project work for. So all of that information is available to you, and we expect that you turn up to class at the right time like you would a job. We have this discussion around a topic, and then we break into the teams, and we would work in teams on a particular task that would relate back to the theory that's just been delivered and talked about, and possibly the client project that we might be applying that to. So an example might be, we might have just gone through a discussion on how you manage to identify stakeholders on your project. And then we might have had a brief on how to, and this is a real project, how to identify funding of $125 million to kickstart a project up in Northeast Arnhem Land. And we would then go through the exercise together in our project teams to talk about how do we actually apply the theory of stakeholder identification to the actual client project.
Perfect. Thanks for that, Siobhan. Couple more questions before you head off. We've only got a few minutes, so I'll make these quick. Now, one of the things which I find quite unique with the project leadership program is the flexibility with units in the second year, or certainly what students can potentially do. Now that leads on to a question from Jenny in the chat. She's wondering how much of the course is focused on psychology or analytics?
Oh goodness, that's a very specific question. That's a good question. Okay, psychology, we don't teach psychology in the core units or the foundation units of project management in the theoretical perspective. We do cover the 10 knowledge areas according to the guidelines around project management, the universally accepted project management body of knowledge. And in there are knowledge areas on human resources, and within human resources, we'll talk about things like leadership and things like how do you actually manage a team of people? What are the motivational factors? What are the behaviours? So we do cover some of the psychological theory where it impacts on the delivery of a project. One of the theories that comes to mind is Hertzberg's hygiene factors on how you reward and remunerate people on a project. So we always bring it back into the project context. If you wanted to do a specific focused area on psychology, then what we would do is sit down with you and look at what the electives are that you could actually take from that particular discipline. The same with analytics, or was it analytics? Or
yeah, that's right, analytics. Yeah.
So thanks, James. So from an analytical or analytics perspective, we talk a little bit about identifying how you would ensure that the project meets certain metrics and how you would benchmark those outcomes against agreed metrics. So we would talk about it from that perspective. So there's a little bit of analytics in there, but we don't go into the theory around analysing data. That would be something that you could take through possibly the Faculty of IT. And we would again work with you to look at identifying appropriate electives where you're not going to be disadvantaged if there are prerequisites or co-requisites that have to be done with that type of stream.
And that's one of the things I really like about the program, Siobhan, is that flexibility and choice available to students. Often in a lot of programs, particularly at the postgraduate level, they can be quite rigid. But certainly the project leadership will allow students, for example, I had a student quite interested in sustainability, taking up some units in the Master of Environmental and Sustainability program. So Jenny, in answer to your question, that should be possible. We can work with you on an individual basis to find units which can help there. Siobhan, we've got 1 minute, so I'm going to ask you one last question we've got from one of our students prior to this session. She is considering whether to apply for project leadership, and she's also thinking about project management. Now both are being run by Monash or their Monash programs. What are the differences, would you say, between those programs?
Okay, thanks, James. These are really good questions. The difference between the two programs essentially is the Master of Project Management is only online, and all of the learning material is similar, not necessarily identical, but similar to the on-campus material. However, you are working on case studies as opposed to interacting with live clients. And that's only because we can't get a live client potentially at 3 o'clock in the morning when you might think that that's the best time to study and do your work. So the MPM and the MPL teams work very closely together. So the project management teams work very closely with the project leadership teams. The project management team is operated through a Monash online group of people, and it's run on a 6-week carousel. And the carousel is where you can drop in and drop out of the different units of study. You have to complete the 4 foundation units, and this is the same for on-campus and online, before you can progress up to the core or advanced units of study. So you can't sort of skip between the 2 levels, because we build all of the knowledge base in the advanced units, obviously on the technical foundational skills that you learn in those first 4 units. On campus, as I said before, you get the interaction with the live clients, and you would be coming onto campus and interacting in an ITO world, interacting with the cohort that become your network, which online, you have that online network as well. And with an online learning associate who meets probably once a week on average for about an hour, just to have a discussion with the students who are studying online, to be able to identify if there are any questions or issues that you can work on together. So that's essentially the difference between the 2 types of degrees. And I think they're priced the same as well.
Siobhan, that's been great. There aren't any more questions, and I am conscious of time. So thank you very much for your time this afternoon. I'm sure it's been a great help to the students considering this area.
Thank you. Thank you, James.
No problem. And also it's great, Siobhan, that you've got your email address up on your screen. So if any student is interested in contacting you directly, please do have a chat with Siobhan or book into one of our consultations, which we're running throughout this semester, and we will work with you as best we can.
Excellent. I'll stop sharing now so I can see the big screen in front of me. And good luck with your decision making. And again, more than happy to answer any questions. And if I can't answer them, I'll find the right people that will hopefully be able to respond to you, particularly when it comes to more technical questions about enrolment and how you navigate that system. And even if you want any questions on other programs or industry associations, or how do you get a job in project management? I've employed project managers. I've been a project manager. I'm still a project manager. So it's a wonderful career. It's rewarded me with some brilliant contacts, networks of people that I've either studied with, worked with, or continue to enjoy and push the boundaries with, which is what we all enjoy doing. So well done. Thank you. And thank you, James. I really appreciate your time being able to curate and support this program here too.
That's great. Thanks, Siobhan, and all the best, students, and look forward to welcoming you soon.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.